I only worked the water tower after sunset in summer, when the metal cooled enough that it would not burn through gloves. The first time I noticed the ladder stretching, I blamed myself. Climbing fatigue bent distance, but the rungs did not change. They repeated. I counted out of habit. 38, 39, 40. At 40, I should have been at the service platform. Instead, I found the same crooked washer on the left rail again, the same worn bolt I always passed at rung 12. I stopped and looked down. The floodlight at the base looked smaller, dimmer. The ground was farther away than it should have been. I looked up. More ladder, perfectly clean, like it had never seen weather. My radio gave one short key-up hiss, then went dead quiet. Then the ladder creaked, not from my movement, but like something above me had shifted its weight. I held still with my chest against the rails, waiting for a shadow to slide into my flashlight beam. Nothing appeared. The night around the tower stayed full of insects and heat, but the space along the ladder felt sealed off, as if the air had decided to behave differently. I tested the rung under my boot. Solid. I tapped the rail with my knuckles. The sound was normal metal, normal hollow tower. I tried the radio again, keeping my voice low. Maintenance Unit 7, checking in. No reply came back. No weather band, no distant chatter, only silence, thick and deliberate. I started to climb again, faster, because speed felt safer than thinking. 41, 42. At 50, I saw the platform lip above me, finally, like it had been waiting just out of reach. I pulled myself onto the platform and stood with both boots flat, hands still gripping the guardrail, as if the tower might tilt. The wind should have been stronger up there. Instead, it came in soft, as if filtered. My tool bag sat where I always left it, strapped to its bracket. The strap buckle was closed tight. I did not remember closing it. I checked the hatch to the tank access. The padlock hung open, swinging with a slow, patient rhythm. Inside the hatch, my flashlight caught clean paint where there should have been scuffs, like someone had scrubbed away years of use. The metal smelled sharp, almost new. I made myself do the checklist anyway. Routine kept me from inventing ghosts. On the far side of the platform, the ladder continued upward, past where the tower ended, straight into darkness. There was no reason for a second ladder. The tower had one climb, one platform, one hatch. Above the bowl of the tank, there was only air. I leaned over the guardrail and aimed my flashlight up. The beam hit rungs and rails, then faded, like the light got tired halfway. The second ladder looked newer than the first. No rust freckles, no grime. The bolts were bright, and halfway up, I saw the same crooked washer. It did not belong there. I took out a paint marker from my pocket, the kind I used to mark valves after inspection. I drew a thick line across the left rail at shoulder height, right through a scratch I recognized. A simple proof. Then I waited, listening for the creak above. Nothing moved. The tower hummed. The field below held its quiet. I started up the second ladder anyway, one rung at a time, eyes on my fresh paint line behind me. At 10 rungs up, I stopped and looked back. The paint line was still there, but it was not on the platform rail. It was on the ladder. My mark sat one rung below my boots, as if I had drawn it on the second ladder all along. The scratch under it looked older too, softened, like years of weather had worn it down. I climbed down 2 rungs and touched the paint. Still tacky, still fresh. My own proof had moved without drying. A slow pressure built at the back of my throat, the same feeling I got when I realized I had left a tool in a place it could not be. Not fear yet. A demand for correction. I went back down to the platform and looked for my marker in my pocket. It was gone. In its place was a small strip of yellow tape, torn cleanly, as if someone had prepared it for me. I used yellow tape for lockout tags and temporary warnings. This piece had no writing on it, just the adhesive edge and a neat tear. I stared at it until my hands felt clumsy. Then I did the next sane thing. I ended the job. I climbed down the original ladder without looking up, counting rungs like prayers. The crooked washer appeared at 12 where it belonged. At 20, my radio clicked once, as if acknowledging my choice. At 30, the floodlight looked brighter again. When my boots hit gravel, the distance snapped back. The tower returned to its proper scale. I turned, expecting the ladder to look normal from the ground. It did. One ladder, one platform, one bowl. Nothing reaching into the night. I locked the gate, drove home, and told myself I would come back in daylight when the tower had to follow ordinary rules. The next afternoon, the ladder was exactly 38 rungs to the platform. My paint marker lay in the truck where I always kept it. The hatch padlock was closed and dusty, like no one had touched it since my last shift. I did not climb. I walked the perimeter instead, checking the base bolts, the concrete footings, the fence line. I looked for fresh tire tracks. I found only my own from the night before. At the floodlight box, the access panel sat flush. I opened it and checked the timer. It was set to switch on at 9:12 p.m., the same time every night in summer. I left it open and watched the sun slide down behind the grain elevator in the distance. When the timer clicked, the floodlight came on with a steady hum. My radio hissed once, short and sharp, like a hand tapping a microphone. Then it went quiet, even in daylight. I stayed until full dark because leaving felt like surrendering, the only chance to understand. The field cooled, the insects grew louder, the tower became a silhouette with one bright circle of light at its base, like an eye that refused to blink. At 9:30 p.m. I clipped my radio to my vest and stepped onto the first rung. The metal was cool. The rails felt normal under my gloves. I counted again. 1, 2, 3. At 12, my fingers found the crooked washer. At 13, the ladder creaked above me. One careful shift, as if something had adjusted to my return. I froze. The radio did not crackle. It stayed silent, waiting. I kept climbing, slower now, and at 38, I should have seen the platform. I saw rung 39 instead, clean and bright, repeating the same bolt head as if the ladder had decided the number did not matter. I forced myself to stop before panic made decisions for me. I took the yellow tape from my pocket and wrapped it around the right rail, leaving a tail that would flutter if I moved past it. A simple marker that could not be mistaken. Then I climbed 3 more rungs. When I looked back, the tape tail did not flutter. It hung straight down, perfectly still, like air had stopped around it. Worse, the tape was not 3 rungs below me. It was at my shoulder, level with my eyes, as if it had followed me. I reached out and pinched the tape. The adhesive stuck to my glove with a soft pull. Real, present, not a trick of light. The ladder gave a slow groan above my head, deeper than before, as if weight had settled onto the rung directly over me. Something was close enough that the metal carried it, and it was not coming down fast. It was waiting for me to keep going. My mouth went dry. I wanted to climb down, but the distance below felt wrong again, stretched thin like a bad measurement. I made myself look up. My flashlight beam climbed the rails and caught a section that did not match. The rungs ahead were clean, but the rails carried faint factory marks. Tiny numbers stamped into the metal, a different ladder grafted into mine. In the middle of that new section, perfectly aligned with my own, was my paint marker line, thick and bright, as if I had drawn it minutes ago. The tower had not forgotten my proof. It had kept it. I pressed my forehead to the cold rail and spoke into the dead radio, slow and clear. I am coming down now. The ladder creaked above me again, answering in the same language. Then my next rung shifted under my boot, not slipping, but moving down, like the ladder was making room for something to climb past me. I did not jump. I did not let my hands leave the rails. I shifted my weight back onto the rung I trusted and kept my boots planted as if the ladder was ordinary. The rung under me settled with a soft, obedient click, the way a shelf settles when you stop pushing it. I started down one rung, slow enough to feel every vibration through the metal. The distance below stayed wrong. The floodlight looked farther away than a floodlight should, like the beam had been stretched thin. Above my head, the clean section made a small sound, a careful scrape that stopped when I stopped. It matched my pace. At the tape mark, I paused. The yellow strip still hung at shoulder height, as if it had climbed with me. I peeled it off and pressed it hard onto the rail, then rubbed it until the adhesive warmed under my glove. I went down 2 rungs. When I looked back, the tape was no longer on the rail behind me. It was on the rail beside my hand, neatly placed, the torn edge facing the same direction. The tape had not fallen. It had moved as if someone had reset it. My chest tightened in a practical way, the way it did when a gauge read wrong, and you knew it was not the gauge. The ladder wanted a single version of where I was, and it was choosing for me. I tried to anchor myself with numbers. I counted down out loud, low and steady, the way you count while carrying something heavy, so you do not rush. 37, 36, 35. The crooked washer appeared too soon. Under my left glove, at what should have been 28, I stopped with my fingers on it, confirming the scratch beside it. The burr I always felt without looking. That washer was supposed to be lower. The ladder had rearranged its own landmarks, like a map that refused to be folded the same way twice. The radio on my vest stayed dead, but I heard a faint hiss anyway, not from the speaker, from somewhere in the rail itself. I pressed my ear against the metal. The sound was thin, like air forced through a narrow gap. It came in short bursts, spaced like someone tapping a pattern with their thumb. I pulled back and held still. The tapping stopped. When I moved again, it resumed. 1 beat for each rung, never early, never late. I realized the tower was not hiding the change from me. It was measuring me. I forced myself to keep descending until my boots touched the point where the floodlight should have washed the ladder in white. The light did not reach me. It stopped a few feet below, like an invisible line had been drawn across the air. I lowered my foot into the light. The rung dipped, making room. I pulled it back. I did not want to cross a line I could not see. I stayed above the edge of the floodlight and focused on the one thing I could control: proof. I took my keys out and scraped a long mark into the right rail, deep enough that my glove caught the groove when I ran my fingers over it. A raw sound of metal on metal, a mark no weather could erase in a day. Then I climbed down 3 rungs and climbed back up 3 rungs. When I returned, the groove was not there. In its place was a smooth strip of clean rail, like the tower had been replaced mid-sentence. My keys felt lighter in my palm, as if some small part of them had been filed away without my noticing. I put them back in my pocket and did not look for the missing metal. I made myself climb up instead of down, because up was what the ladder wanted, and I needed to see how far that obedience went. The moment I committed upward, the air loosened. The light from below looked steadier, as if the tower approved. The clean section above me creaked once, not shifting away, not retreating, just acknowledging my direction. At the platform, my boots hit steel, and the wrongness changed shape. The hatch padlock still swung open. The tool bag strap was still closed tight. My paint marker line still waited on the upper ladder section, bright as fresh ink. It felt staged, like a room prepared for a test. I did not go up the second ladder. I backed away from it and kept my hands in sight, as if the tower cared about manners. I climbed down again, committing to the descent without hesitation, and the tower punished the choice immediately. The floodlight shrank. The beam faded. The rails vibrated with the thin tapping, 1 beat per rung. I stopped, and the tapping stopped. I moved, and it resumed. That was the rule. Motion was allowed only on its terms. I breathed slow through my nose and continued down in a steady rhythm, trying to make my movement boring enough to ignore. 30 rungs, 20, 10. At 12, the crooked washer returned exactly where it belonged, as if nothing had happened. At 15, the rail above me creaked with a heavier sound than before. Something had stepped onto the ladder behind me, close enough that the weight traveled through metal into my hands. I did not turn around. I did not shine the flashlight up, because light felt like an invitation. I went down 1 rung. The weight followed, 1 rung behind, the timing perfect. No rush, no stumble, just a mirrored descent, patient and precise. My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, to demand that the tower give me something human to argue with. I did not. I reached the last rung and dropped onto gravel, knees bending to absorb the impact. The floodlight suddenly looked normal again, bright and harsh. The radio crackled with distant weather chatter, as if it had woken up mid-sentence. I stepped back and looked up at the ladder. It was empty, but the rails still trembled, like someone had just let go. I locked the hatch. I checked the platform from below. I watched the floodlight timer and waited for it to change its mind. Nothing shifted. The tower stood in the field the way a tower should, indifferent and quiet. I drove to the utility office with my windows down, trying to keep my head clear with night air. The building was dark, except for 1 vending machine glow. I used my key card and went inside alone. I wrote a maintenance note the way I always did, with plain words and times. Floodlight functional. Padlock found open. Ladder inspection required. My hand hesitated over the last line. I did not write that the ladder had become longer. I wrote that the ladder felt unsafe at night. In the morning, unsafe would sound reasonable. The next day, I came back with a second person, not as backup, but as a witness, a coworker from day shift who did not like heights and liked routine. He brought a clipboard and a measuring tape and treated the tower like a normal job. In daylight, the ladder was 38 rungs to the platform. The metal was warm. The air moved freely. The radio worked. The tape in my pocket stayed in my pocket. We climbed halfway and stopped while he read out numbers from the tape measure. Every distance matched the manual. Then, without warning, my radio gave one short key-up hiss. Not a signal, not static. A deliberate, single press. My coworker did not react, like he had not heard it at all. And above us, very softly, the ladder creaked, as if weight had shifted in the empty air. My coworker kept his eyes on the clipboard, pencil moving as if the sound had never happened. The radio on my vest was silent again. When I asked him later, he said he heard nothing. He said the only noise up there was wind and insects. On the ladder, I could feel it in my palms, a faint vibration through the rails, like a low note held under the metal. It was not electrical hum. It was pressure, timed. One short pulse, then nothing. We finished the daylight inspection and climbed down. He signed the sheet. Normal. Safe. At the truck, I looked up once more. The ladder did not move, but it looked like it was waiting for night. That evening, I came back alone, earlier than usual. While the last light still sat on the field, I parked farther out and walked in without turning on my headlights, like I was trying not to wake something. I brought simple tools that could not lie: a chalk line, a roll of bright survey tape, a small action camera with a strap mount. I mounted the camera at chest level, aimed up the ladder, and pressed record. A steady red dot, proof that did not depend on tired eyes. I tied survey tape at rung 12, right beside the crooked washer. Then I tied another at rung 20, beside a dent I knew. 2 anchors, 2 fixed points. When the floodlight clicked on at 9:12 p.m., the radio gave one short hiss. I waited 10 full breaths, then I started climbing. The first 20 rungs felt ordinary. The tape at 12 stayed behind me. The tape at 20 came and went beneath my hands. My breathing settled into the rhythm I had trained into my body for years. At rung 28, the air changed. The field noise softened, not fading away, but stepping back like it had been asked to. My radio went fully quiet. No background band, no distant voices, only a blank channel. I climbed 2 more rungs and stopped. The tape at rung 20 was not below me. It was at my shoulder. It hung from the rail beside my glove, the torn end pointing down. I turned my head slowly and saw the tape at rung 12 too. It was also at my shoulder. Both anchors had followed me. I did not untie them. I kept climbing. At rung 38, where the platform should have been, I reached up and found another rung instead. The camera on my chest stayed aimed upward. The red dot blinked calmly. I counted out loud, not as a challenge, but as a record. 39, 40, 41. The rails above me looked newer, cleaner, like the tower had grown a second spine. The bolt heads gleamed, untouched by weather. The tape markers remained at the same height on either side of me, always just within reach, as if the ladder insisted I had never passed them. A soft creak came from above. A single careful shift. I stopped. It stopped. When I moved one rung higher, it moved one rung too. It was close enough that the sound felt personal, like breathing shared in a small room. I forced myself to do the one thing I had avoided. I looked down. The floodlight was smaller than it should have been. The ground looked far, not just distant, but wrong in proportion, like I was looking through a lens that had been swapped without warning. The field did not stretch. It flattened. The idea formed clean and cold. If I kept climbing, the tower would keep the ground away from me. If I climbed down, it would keep the ground away too, until it decided otherwise. I reached up and scratched a fresh mark into the rail with my key, deep enough to catch my glove. A new scar, created in this moment, not copied from memory. Then I climbed one rung. My glove brushed the scar again. The mark had moved with me. The ladder was not extending. It was carrying my position upward, like an elevator disguised as steps. The action camera made a faint, steady whir against my chest. That sound mattered. It meant time was passing, the way time should. I kept climbing until my arms trembled from holding myself too still. At some point, I saw the platform lip again, ahead of me, close enough to touch. I reached for it, and my fingers closed on cold steel. I pulled myself up. The platform was there, exactly as before, with the open padlock swinging, with the clean scuffed paint, with my tool bag strap buckled tight. The tower had rebuilt the scene for me. I unclipped the camera and set it on the platform floor facing the ladder, so it could watch without my body in the way. Then I stood back and waited. The ladder creaked once above the platform edge. Something was about to arrive, but it did not step onto the platform. It stayed just out of sight. I did not call out. I did not try to bargain. I watched the ladder rails, the way you watch a doorway when you know someone is behind it. The survey tape at rung 12 fluttered, though there was no wind. It lifted and settled like a small signal. Then the tape slid upward along the rail, smooth and quiet, as if pulled by an unseen hand. It moved 2 inches, stopped, moved again, stopped, measured. I backed away until my shoulders touched the tank bowl. The metal was cool, almost damp. My radio gave one short hiss, then a longer open mic sound, like someone was holding the button down. I waited for a voice. None came, but the open channel made my skin crawl because it felt like listening with the mouth closed. Then the channel clicked off, and the tape stopped moving, as if the tower had finished checking something. I picked up the camera and clipped it back to my vest. Leaving it behind felt like leaving a part of myself where the tower could keep it. I went to the hatch and shined my flashlight inside. The access ladder down into the tank was there, normal, with its own rust and water stains. On the hatch rim, someone had placed a new strip of yellow tape, pressed flat and clean. There was writing on it, not printed, not a label, a line carved into the tape with something sharp, no down. 2 words, plain, not a threat, not a warning written for drama, a rule. My throat went tight. I looked back at the platform ladder. It creaked once, as if to confirm that it had been waiting for me to read. I did not go into the tank. I backed away from the hatch and kept my hands on the outer rail. I needed to get down, but now I had a rule that told me the tower cared about direction. I started down with my flashlight angled at my boots, hands fixed on the rails. The moment I committed to the descent, the air tightened. The field noise softened, like someone had closed a door. My radio went dead quiet. Behind me, the ladder answered with a single creak. One rung behind. I went down again. The creak followed, perfect timing, patient, close enough that the vibration traveled into my forearms. The survey tape was still at my shoulder, both strips hanging where they should not be. The tower refused to let me own distance. Halfway down, my beam caught the scratch I had cut with my key. It should have been above me. It was beside my hand again. When my boots finally hit gravel, the world snapped back into proper scale. The floodlight looked harsh again. My radio filled with distant chatter, as if a curtain had lifted. I stepped away from the ladder and forced myself to breathe slow. In the truck, I played the camera footage with the cabin light low. The climb was there. The repeating tape was there. At rung 40, the video stuttered, a brief digital smear that always landed on the same frame. In that smear, something occupied the rungs above me, pressed close to the rails. Not a face, not a body I could measure, a shape that made the ladder look crowded. Then the footage resumed, empty, normal, as if the camera had been corrected. The next day, I returned with a simple plan. I would not fight the tower. I would document it. If it wanted rules, I would treat it like a machine with a fault that only appeared under specific conditions. I brought a fresh roll of yellow tape and a permanent marker. I brought 2 small magnets used for temporary signage. I brought a laser distance measurer and extra batteries. I also brought a cheap kitchen timer that clicked loudly when it reached 0. I waited for 9:12 p.m. The floodlight hummed on. My radio gave the short key-up hiss. I did not climb yet. I set the timer for 10 minutes and placed it on the concrete base under the ladder. I needed to know if the tower cared about time as much as direction. For 10 minutes, I stood in the floodlight and listened. The field stayed normal. Insects, distant highway, wind in dry grass. The tower did not creak. When the timer clicked, the sound was sharp in the quiet. Immediately, the ladder gave a slow groan above my head, as if the click had pulled attention downward. I reset the timer for 5 minutes. I stepped back out of the light and waited. No creak. At 5 minutes, click, another groan from above. The pattern was clean, not random, not my imagination. The tower heard certain signals and responded as if it had a schedule. I wrote the first rule in my notebook with plain words. Rule 1. After 9:12 p.m., the tower responds to marked time. Then I climbed. I climbed with the notebook rule in mind, keeping my pace steady and dull. At rung 12, I found the crooked washer. At rung 20, the old dent, both where they belonged at first. At rung 28, the air tightened. The radio died. The field noise softened, like someone had closed a door. I stopped before the change could take my balance. I took a magnet from my pocket and snapped it onto the right rail beside my hand. It clung with a hard click. I climbed 1 rung. The magnet was still beside my hand. I climbed another, still beside my hand. I looked down. It should have been 2 rungs below me. It was not. It had moved without falling. It had followed as if the rail itself had carried it. I put the second magnet on the left rail. Now I had two moving markers. The tower creaked above me once, like approval. At rung 38, the platform should have arrived. It did not. The ladder offered more rung. Bright and clean. I did not rush. I watched the magnets. They stayed level with my hands. The tower refused to let them become history. I turned on the laser distance measurer and aimed it down toward the concrete base. A thin red line touched the ground far below. The screen gave a number that made no sense for the height I knew. It was larger by too much, as if I were higher than the tower could physically allow. I aimed the laser again. Same result. I aimed it at the floodlight housing. The number changed slightly, then stabilized, as if the tower had settled on a single answer. I wrote it down. Then I wrote the rung count. The number and the count disagreed. The tower was selecting which measurements were true. I reached the platform only when the tower decided I had observed enough. It appeared like a stage light switching on, sudden and exact. The open padlock swung, same as before. The tool bag strap was buckled, same as before. The hatch rim held a fresh strip of yellow tape, pressed flat. There were new words carved into it. No down, no light. 2 rules, plain, minimal. I did not question how the second line had arrived. I treated it like a warning label on a motor. I looked at my flashlight. I looked at the ladder going higher than the tank should allow. I kept the beam pointed at the floor. On the platform rail, my own marker line was there again, bright and impossible. The tower kept my proofs like souvenirs, and it was adding rules as if I had earned them. I obeyed the rules. I did not climb higher. I did not shine light upward. I kept my hands visible and my movements slow. I set my kitchen timer on the platform floor and started it for 1 minute. The click would be loud, even in wind. Before it reached 0, the ladder above the platform creaked, 1 rung, then another, descending in sound only, like weight stepping down without showing itself. The timer clicked. The creaking stopped instantly, as if the click had been a boundary. I started the timer again. 30 seconds. The creaking returned, closer this time, then stopped again at the click. The tower was not just responding to time, it was using time to hold something in place. I tried a smaller experiment. I turned my flashlight off completely and stood in the platform darkness, letting the floodlight below do what it could. The air loosened slightly. The pressure eased. The radio remained dead, but the silence felt less strict. Above me, the ladder did not creak. I turned the flashlight on, keeping the beam aimed down. Immediately, one careful creak from above, like a foot testing a rung. I turned the flashlight off again. Silence. The rule made sense in a way that was hard to accept. Light was not just visibility. Light was a signal. Light invited attention from the section of ladder that did not belong to the tower. I wrote the next line in my notebook. Rule 2. Light changes what is above the platform. I needed to finish the actual work. That was the most dangerous part. If I treated the tower like a story, it could turn into one. If I treated it like a job, I could stay inside routine. I inspected the vent screen. I checked bolts and brackets. I listened for hollow knocks that meant corrosion. Everything was fine. Too fine. Like the tower wanted the maintenance part to be boring. Then I found something that did not match the checklist. A fresh strip of yellow tape was wrapped around the inside of the guardrail, low, at knee height. It was not a rule label. It was a marker. On it, carved in shallow letters, was my name, not printed, not written in ink, carved the way you scratch into soft metal, my first and last name, spaced carefully. The tower did not guess. It knew. My hands stayed steady because panic would break rules by accident. I touched the carved letters once, then kept my flashlight beam on the platform floor. I wrote on the back of the tape in thick block letters, removed. I peeled it off the rail and folded it sticky side in so my name disappeared. The moment the tape left the metal, the tower groaned above the platform edge with a heavier sound than before. Not a shift, a step. The vibration ran through the guardrail into my boots. I did not look up. I held the folded tape in my fist like evidence. On the hatch rim, the rules stayed the same, but the air felt tighter, as if the tower was waiting to see what I would do with what I took. I started down, slow, obeying no light without thinking. The air tightened, and my radio went silent again. Halfway down, the rails under my gloves turned cleaner, brighter. The tower slid me onto its newer section like a track switching lanes. Behind me, a careful creak kept pace. One rung behind, never closer, never farther. When I paused, it paused. When I moved, it moved. At the edge of the floodlight, the rung dipped as if offering me room. I stepped into the light. The folded tape went cold in my fist, and the creaking stopped at once. In the truck cab, I opened my hand. The tape was still folded, but the carved letters had changed. My name was gone. In its place was a single word, pressed deep and neat. Return. I did not sleep much after that. I kept the folded tape on my kitchen table like it was a receipt I did not understand. In daylight, the word return looked harmless, like a reminder from a store. At night, it felt like an instruction aimed at my hands. By late afternoon, I had decided on one thing. I would not improvise on the tower again. Improvisation was how you broke rules without noticing. I drove back before sunset and sat in the truck until the sky went dull. I brought the tape. I brought a new roll. I brought my notebook and a small evidence bag from the office. I did not bring courage. I brought procedure. At 9:12 p.m., the floodlight came on. My radio gave the short key-up hiss and fell quiet. I stayed on the gravel and held the folded tape up in the light so I could see it clearly. Return. I walked to the ladder and pressed the tape to the lowest rail, right where my hand usually grabbed on the first rung. I did not peel it open. I did not try to fix the message. I just put it back where it could be found. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, far above, the tower creaked once. Not a step, a small settling sound, like weight easing into a comfortable position. The air loosened slightly around my shoulders. The tower had accepted the return. I climbed only to the platform that night. I kept my flashlight off, except when I needed it, and when I used it, I aimed it at the floor and my own boots. The rule no light stayed in my mind like a speed limit. The platform scene was reset again. Open padlock, buckled strap, clean paint in places that should have been scuffed. On the hatch rim, the rule tape was there, pressed flat and neat. No down, no light. Below it, another strip had been added. Return items. The words were carved shallow, careful, like a label made by someone who wanted the letters to last. I stood still and let the meaning settle. The tower did not want my fear. It wanted compliance. I made myself do a full inspection the way I would on any other night. Vent screen, brackets, bolts, every check calm and slow. Routine was the only thing that stopped my thoughts from spiraling into stories. When I finished, I did not climb the extra ladder. I did not shine light upward. I stayed inside the rules like a fenced lane. I set my kitchen timer on the platform and started it for 1 minute, then watched the seconds pass. Above me, the ladder creaked 2 rungs down, then stopped. The timer clicked. The creaking stopped instantly, like the sound had been caught and cut. Time was a boundary. Light was a signal. Return was a requirement. The tower was teaching me how to work in it. On the way down, the descent felt easier than before. The floodlight did not shrink as much. The ground stayed closer to where it belonged. At rung 12, I touched the crooked washer and felt the burr the way I always did. The familiarity was almost comforting. Then I noticed something new. A thin line scratched into the rail beside the washer, clean and straight, like a mark made with a blade, not a key. It was not old damage. It was fresh. Under it, someone had carved a small word. Yes. I did not stop long. I did not touch it again. I kept climbing down and reached gravel without the ladder dipping under my boot. In the truck, my radio returned to normal chatter the moment I shut the door. The tower had released me cleanly, like a system that had logged my exit. The next day, I reviewed the camera footage again, not searching for shapes this time, but searching for patterns. The stutter at rung 40 was consistent. The reset at the platform was consistent. The moving markers were consistent. The strangest part was what did not appear. The camera never captured the upper ladder in full. The image softened there, like focus refused to hold on the section that did not belong to the tower. I wrote a list in my notebook. What the tower responded to: timer clicks, flashlight on, downward motion, removed items. Then I wrote a second list. What it seemed to allow: slow pace, no light upward, returning what it gave. It read like a safety manual, written by something that had never needed sleep. I told my supervisor I needed to replace the floodlight timer. I said it had been inconsistent. The lie was small enough to fit inside a work order. He approved it without looking up from his screen. Budget lines mattered more than towers at night. That weekend, I came back with a new timer and a new light sensor. If the tower cared about 9:12 p.m., I wanted to see what happened if the tower never got its signal. I installed the new timer in daylight and tested it twice. The light would now switch on at 10 p.m. sharp. No gradual fade, no drift. When I finished, I stood under the ladder and looked up. In daylight, it was ordinary. 38 rungs, 1 platform, 1 hatch. But the air felt like it was waiting for its usual time. That night, I returned at 9:05 p.m. and sat in my truck with the engine off. The field was black. The tower was a darker shape against a starless sky. At 9:12 p.m., nothing happened. No floodlight, no hum, no circle of white at the base. My radio gave the short key-up hiss anyway. The sound came from the speaker like a cough. Then silence followed. deeper than normal quiet, as if the radio itself had been corrected. Above the truck, the tower creaked once, slow and heavy, like weight shifting in a place that should have held only air. I stayed in the cab and did not move until my watch read 9:20 p.m. The tower did not like the missing signal. It had created its own. At 10 p.m., the new timer switched the floodlight on exactly as programmed. I waited 10 breaths, then stepped out. The moment my boots hit gravel, my radio went dead quiet, deliberate and complete. I walked to the ladder and placed my hand on the rail. The metal felt too cool, like it had been shaded all day. I climbed to the old anchor point out of habit, then stopped. Where the crooked washer used to guide my fingers, the hardware looked freshly replaced, centered and bright. Beside it, a shallow carve sat in the rail, clean as a label. No, the tower was not confused. It was refusing me on purpose. I climbed down 2 rungs and held still in the floodlight, letting my breathing settle. If the tower said no at the anchor point, then everything above it was undefined, and I had learned what happened when I tried to force an answer. I took the evidence bag from my pocket and opened it with care. I sealed my keys inside, then held the bag up where the light could see it. I pressed the plastic against the rail at the first rung. The ladder creaked once, deep and close, like a decision. The carved no did not change. Then, beside it, another word appeared, scratched from the inside, as if the metal had teeth. Wait. I kept the evidence bag open under the rail, keys sealed inside like a clean offering. The ladder creaked once, close enough that I felt the vibration in my wrists. I did not look up. I let my eyes stay on the washer and the carved no beside it, as if attention itself was part of the contract. I raised the bag and pressed it against the rail at rung 12. The plastic crackled softly. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the radio on my vest gave a short key-up hiss, even though the channel was dead. The carved no did not disappear, but beside it, a new shallow line appeared, as if the metal had been scratched from the inside. Wait. Wait was not a warning label. It was a command written in the same calm hand the tower used for rules. I held still, bag pressed to the rail, breathing slow through my nose. Above me, the ladder made a careful 2-step sound, not climbing down, not climbing up, just shifting weight, as if someone stood on a rung and decided how much to lean. The floodlight hum stayed steady at 10 p.m., but the beam looked thinner, like it had been filtered. The field noise softened around the ladder, as if the air itself had been told to be quiet. I waited until my arms started to ache. The plastic bag warmed against the rail, then went cold again, and the word wait changed. A second word formed under it. Open. I did not open it with my fingers. I used the corner of my multi-tool to split the seal, careful and clean, so the tower could not claim I tore it. I shook the keys into my gloved palm and held them up where the floodlight could see. My radio gave the short hiss again, then stayed silent. The ladder above me creaked 1 rung lower, slow and deliberate. It did not rush. It did not threaten. It just moved closer, like a supervisor stepping into view without showing their face. I placed the keys on the lowest rung dead center and took my hands away. The keys did not fall, The rung dipped slightly under the weight, like a shelf accepting an object. Then the keys slid upward along the rung, against gravity, smooth as a conveyor belt. They disappeared into the dark above the floodlight line. The rail beside my hand gained another carved word: paid. Paid was the first word that sounded like a system, like an invoice balanced. My throat tightened in the same way it did when a meter reading matched two perfectly. It meant this was not random. It meant the tower kept accounts. The carved no was still there, but the wait and open had faded like pencil marks rubbed out. Only paid remained. I climbed one rung. The ladder did not lengthen. The ground did not slide away. The floodlight still reached my boots. The field stayed normal. I climbed to rung 12 and stopped at the crooked washer. The rail felt ordinary again. I climbed one more rung. Above my head, the ladder creaked once, farther away now, like weight had stepped back, as if payment had bought distance. I kept climbing until I reached the platform at a normal count, 38. Nothing repeated, nothing reset. That night, the tower let me work like it was a tower. On the platform, the padlock was closed, dusty, the way it should have been. The tool bag strap was unbuckled, exactly how I left it when I did not rush. The clean paint patches were gone. Old scuffs were back in place. The tower looked tired and real. The hatch rim still had the rule tape: no down, no light, return items. Under those, a new strip had been added, pressed flat and neat. Due, one word, carved shallow, as if it did not need explanation. I kept my flashlight beam on the platform floor. I did the inspection by touch and habit. I moved slow. I finished fast. When I started down, the air stayed loose. The radio did not die. The floodlight stayed the right size. I reached gravel with my knees steady. Then, as I stepped away, the ladder creaked once above the first rung, close again. Not anger, reminder. The next week, I treated the tower like a place with a fee. I brought a small bundle of things that were mine, things I could afford to lose. A spare flashlight, a pair of work gloves with a split seam, a cheap pocket knife. Every night, I arrived just before 10 p.m. I waited for the floodlight. I listened for the short radio hiss. Then, I placed one item on the first rung and stepped back. Sometimes the rung dipped and the item slid upward into darkness. Sometimes it stayed, untouched, and the rail gained a single carved word: insufficient. The tower was grading my offerings. When it accepted something, the climb stayed normal. When it rejected something, the ladder repeated. The ground stretched. The platform took longer to arrive. I began to understand the shape of the test. It was not trying to scare me. It was trying to train me. On the 5th night, I brought a tool I cared about. A small wrench I used daily, worn smooth by my hands. I did not want to offer it. I offered it anyway, because the tower had already asked for my keys once, and it knew what mattered. At 10 p.m. the floodlight came on. My radio hissed once. I placed the wrench on the first rung. The ladder creaked above. Not close, not far, like a throat clearing. The wrench slid upward, slow and steady, until it vanished into the dark. The rail beside my hand gained a new word: clean. I stared at that word until my eyes stung. Clean matched the new ladder section. Clean matched the scrubbed platform. Clean matched the way the tower erased marks when it disliked them. Clean was not a compliment, it was an instruction. That night, when I climbed, every rung felt newer under my gloves, as if the tower had replaced the path under me without changing the shape. Clean changed how I worked. I wiped my boots before I climbed. I cleaned grease off my gloves. I stopped bringing coffee in the truck because I did not want the smell up there. I started to feel watched, not by eyes, but by standards. On a night with low clouds, the floodlight beam spread wider, and the air around the ladder felt thicker. At 10 p.m. my radio hissed, then held an open mic sound for a full second, like someone was listening closely. I climbed to rung 12 and felt the crooked washer. It was gone. In its place was a bolt with a bright new washer, perfectly centered. The landmark I had trusted for years had been replaced. The tower had cleaned the ladder so thoroughly it had erased my memory anchors. I kept climbing anyway, because stopping felt like failing a test I could not retake. At rung 20, I found a strip of yellow tape wrapped tight. There were words carved into it. No memory. No memory was the most direct rule yet. It explained the erased washer. It explained the moving markers. It explained why the ladder refused to let me prove progress. The tower did not want me to own the path. It wanted the climb to be the same every time, no matter what I remembered. I reached the platform and found the hatch padlock open again. The scene had reset back to the staged version. Clean paint and buckled strap, as if my weeks of payment had earned me entry into a different mode. The rule tape now read like a checklist. No down, no light, return items, do, clean, no memory. Under those, a final strip had been added since last night. One more. The words were shallow, almost gentle. I stood on the platform with my hands on the guardrail and understood what one more meant. One more payment, one more climb, one more thing returned. Then something would change. I did not go up the ladder above the platform. I kept my light down. I set my kitchen timer for 1 minute and placed it near my boots. The click felt like a boundary I could control. Above the platform edge, the ladder creaked twice, descending in sound. Then it stopped, as if held by the running seconds. The timer clicked. Silence followed, immediate and absolute. Then the radio on my vest spoke for the first time in weeks, not with static, not with a weather band. A single calm burst of audio, too short to be a voice, but shaped like one. It sounded like my own breathing, recorded and played back. One inhale, one exhale, and under it, faint as a second layer, the metal made a careful shift above me, like something had leaned closer to listen to itself. I picked up the timer and stopped it, hands steady. I started down. Halfway down, the floodlight shrank again, even though I had paid, even though I had been clean. The tower was reminding me of the last rule, one more. At home, I laid my remaining tools on the table and counted them like inventory. The tower had taken enough that my belt felt uneven. The missing spaces mattered more than the items. I read my notebook until the words blurred. No down, no light, return items, do, clean, no memory, one more. I understood the pattern now. The tower accepted things that had weight in my life. Keys, a daily wrench, landmarks I trusted. It was not collecting scrap. It was collecting ownership. One more meant it wanted the last piece that still belonged only to me. The next night, before 10 p.m., I clipped my employee ID badge to my vest and stared at it until my stomach went tight. I drove anyway. I parked by the gravel gate and waited in the dark until the new timer hit its mark. At 10 p.m., the floodlights switched on with a clean hum. My radio gave the short key-up hiss. I walked to the ladder and held the badge in my gloved hand. It was plastic and ordinary, but it held my photo, my name, my number. It was proof I existed inside a system that was not the tower. I placed it on the first rung and stepped back. The rung dipped. The badge did not slide upward right away. It sat there for a full breath, as if being considered. Then it moved, smooth and steady, climbing into darkness against gravity until the floodlight could no longer touch it. The rail beside my hand gained a new carved word: received. Received felt final, like a delivery confirmed. I climbed. The ladder stayed normal. The ground stayed the right distance. The air stayed loose. Even my radio kept faint background chatter, like the tower had allowed the world to remain present. At the platform, the scene was clean again. The staged version. Open padlock, buckled strap, paint too perfect in places. The hatch rim held the full list of rules: no down, no light, return items, do, clean, no memory. One more. Under one more, there was a fresh strip of yellow tape, newly pressed, edges sharp. The letters were deeper than the others, as if the tower wanted them to last. Show hands. I lifted my hands slightly, palms out, and kept my flashlight beam pointed at my boots. Show hands was simple, and that was what made it worse. It meant the tower cared about what I could conceal. It meant it expected me to steal from it, the way it had been stealing from me. I set my kitchen timer on the platform and started it for 1 minute. The ticking was faint. The future click felt like a door latch. Above the platform edge, the ladder creaked once. Close, like a foot placed carefully on the first rung of the impossible section. I did not look up. I kept my hands visible. The radio on my vest stayed quiet, then gave a sound I had never heard from it before. Not static, not hiss. A soft tone, like a voicemail line picking up. Then, underneath that tone, my own breathing played again. One inhale, one exhale, as if the tower was checking that I still belonged to the body on the ladder. The timer clicked. Silence dropped in immediately, clean and absolute. The tower creaked again, closer. A second careful step in the darkness above the platform, still out of sight, still obeying no light the way I did. Something was moving down, not fast, not hunting, measuring. I forced myself to speak in the same calm voice I used on the radio during storms. When panic made people do stupid things, I did not raise my voice. I did not ask questions. I said one sentence, plain and work-like. I am leaving now. Then I started down the main ladder without looking back, hands always on the rails, flashlight angled down, as if obedience could become armor. Halfway down, the floodlight shrank the way it used to when the tower wanted to stretch distance. My radio died into the same deliberate silence. The air tightened around the rails. The rules were changing. Show hands. No memory. I felt it in the metal. The ladder was sliding me onto its clean section again, making landmarks disappear. Rungs felt identical under my boots. Every step could have been the first. Behind me, the creak followed. One rung behind, perfectly timed. It was close enough now that the vibration traveled through the rail into my forearms. I kept my hands visible anyway. I kept them where the floodlight could see. The creak behind me paused when I paused. It waited the way I waited. It was learning my exact speed. At the edge where the floodlight should have reached, the rung dipped as if offering me room. The ladder wanted me to step into the light. I did. The moment my boot entered the bright circle, the pressure eased. The radio stayed dead, but the world returned to scale. The creak behind me stopped. I climbed the last few rungs down fast, not reckless, just committed. Gravel under my boots felt like landing from a bad dream. I stepped back and looked up. The ladder was empty, but the rails trembled faintly, as if something had just let go, right above the lowest rung. On the rail, where I had placed my hand to start the climb, there was fresh yellow tape. A new label, pressed flat. Paid in full. Paid in full should have made me feel relief. Instead, it made my mouth go dry. It meant the tower considered the account settled. It meant it could stop pretending the exchange was optional. I got in my truck and drove to town with the radio off. The silence inside the cab felt chosen, not accidental. At home, I opened my wallet. My badge was gone, of course, but a different card sat in the sleeve where the badge used to be. It looked like an employee ID. Same size, same clip hole, no logo, no department name, just my photo, cleaner than any badge photo should be, and a number printed in small black type, 38. On the back, in plain letters, a single instruction: climb when called. I called my supervisor the next morning and said I was done with night maintenance. I blamed heat. I blamed fatigue. I blamed a ladder that felt unsafe after dark. He sounded annoyed, but not surprised. People quit worse jobs for smaller reasons. They reassigned the tower. Another contractor. Another name on a schedule. That should have ended it. But at 10 p.m., the first night I stayed home, my radio on the kitchen counter gave the short key-up hiss. It had been turned off. The speaker clicked to life anyway, just for a breath, and I heard my own inhale and exhale, recorded, calm. Then a second sound came under it, faint but unmistakable, metal creaking. One careful step, as if a ladder somewhere had shifted its weight, waiting for me to answer. I put the radio in a drawer. I removed the batteries. I wrapped it in a towel, like that could muffle whatever rule it belonged to. The next night, at 10 p.m., the drawer handle moved a fraction of an inch, not opening, just easing, as if pressure had been applied from the inside. I stood in my kitchen and watched it, hands visible, breath slow, listening. No voice came, no threat, no explanation, only the familiar key-up hiss, faint through wood and fabric, followed by the smallest, most patient sound of all, a ladder creaking, one rung at a time, somewhere far away. I did not go back to the tower. I did not climb, but some nights, when the city sleeps and the air is still, I catch myself counting under my breath. 38, 39, 40, and I stop before I say the next number, because part of me is no longer sure which direction it leads. In daylight, I drove back one last time with the new ID card in my pocket and the radio wrapped in a towel on the passenger seat. I did not go at 10 p.m. I went at noon, when the ladder was only a ladder, and the tower could pretend it was ordinary steel. I parked in the open and walked straight to the base. I pressed the card flat against the lowest rail, the way I had returned the tape. I set the radio on the concrete, speaker facing up. Then I stepped back and waited, hands visible at my sides. The floodlight was off. The wind moved normally. After a full minute, the metal gave a single soft settle, like an account closing. The card was still there. The radio stayed dead. That was the closest thing to a receipt I was going to get. I did not climb again, because I finally understood what the tower wanted. It did not want to hurt me. It wanted to enroll me. The ladder got longer to keep me between two distances until I agreed to its rules, until I paid with things that proved who I was. When it stamped 38 on that card, it was not naming me. It was assigning me a rung count, a position in a system that measured people the way it measured water levels. The calls did not mean I had to go back. They meant I had been added to a list, so I made my own rule and kept it. No night climbs, no answering the hiss. If I heard the creak, I did not count past 40. The tower could keep its ladder. I kept my ground. The city is quiet now. You should be too.